Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate, there are a lot of things I want to say thank you about, but I'll be really brief with it, okay? I'll try not to make it like I'm winning a Grammy Award or anything like that. First of all, we have attendees from all over the world. I've done a lot of traveling over the past few years. I know many of you, and it's great to at least connect with you here, even though I can't see you. I'm excited to share this information with you. I research all the time, pretty much every day, sometimes many hours per day. And what I'm going to share with you this evening is something that's really, I've never been more excited actually to share information, because I feel that what we can do with this information, what I've been doing with this information has been very, very beneficial, not only for the people who I work with, but for me, to help me become better at doing things. So I'm looking forward to this. A lot of you have attended workshops in the past, whether it's live, wherever I was, traveling, online, and I want to thank you for your support. Also want to say thank you very much for your support with my various health issues over the past couple of years, the blood clots and this and that, and the hip replacement, and then most recently eye surgery. So today I drove for the first time in quite a while, and you know what? I am so lucky because my eyes are doing very well. I'm going to move quickly tonight, but I'm going to be as succinct as possible. All right, I want to go over a few things in the beginning before I start up. I need to let you know, first of all, while I am going to talk about Parkinson's just a little bit tonight, realize that what I'm going to share with you applies to all people. All right? It applies to all people, because we all have nervous systems, peripheral, central, and other, and a brain. Okay, so all of this applies to all humans. A lot of things, I could go into great detail on many of the slides, much of the information tonight, and I will go into some detail in certain areas more than others. But there are many areas where I'm going to gloss over generalizing thing as like a quick summary of things. So just realize that if you have any questions on this stuff, I will have a Q&A at the end. All right. And for some things, and I'll try to notate them when I get to these spots, I'm going to be painting with a fairly broad brush in certain areas. So I won't be including every possible thing that could be included, but I will be including what I feel is probably the most beneficial for all of us. So I guess that's another way of saying we're going to scratch the surface of some cool stuff. All right, so we have a lot of concepts to talk about tonight. I am recording this, so everybody, those who attend and are not able to attend, will get a recording of this. If you signed up, you'll have this in the morning, or maybe even tonight, depending upon my energy. Let's move forward. I have a very the pleasure and the honor of having a great team of instructors. I know for sure I saw Laura is on. Thank you, Laura, for being with me. Laura's done a lot of work distributing my books in Mexico. I didn't bring up the book in Espanol. I do have a copy downstairs, but the book, many of you have it, and I appreciate your support. This is, the English version, but I have it in Spanish as well. Thank you, Laura. Allison will be joining us soon on a workshop in January. Ruben, same thing. Russ Parker, a lot of you know Russ. I know he signed up to be here tonight. I'm the only one presenting tonight. But also Angeles in Mexico, a dear friend. Russ, Laura, and Angeles, they live with Parkinson's disease. They know a lot. They've learned a lot. They do a lot. They're huge inspirations to me. So I just want to give a shout out to my amazing group of friends and instructors. Today we're going to talk about neuroplasticity. It's kind of a buzzword these days. By the way, if you have questions, put them in the chat box. And I'm just going to check something real quick, just to make sure that there's nothing like, you can't see me, can't hear me, or whatever. Well, right now, I'm sorry, but I can't seem to pull up the chat box. But in any case, neuroplasticity, you've heard about it for years. It's a buzzword. People say it a lot. It sounds cool. It is cool. But we need to dig deeper. We need to dig deeper and find out why neuroplasticity can happen. We know that I'm the kind of person, I need to know why stuff works. And a lot of you are the same way. All right. Neuropsychomotor training. I'm just going to say that, and we'll address this in a little slide coming up soon. All right. I have my cheat thing here because, you know, I literally finished the slideshow tonight. Started it days ago because I want it to be really informative, and so I don't want to forget anything. So moving forward, I have one disclaimer, and this is the only disclaimer. Parkinson's Regeneration Training is the brand. It's the name of the book. It's the name of a company I have. Okay, the methodology that we use is intended to complement medical care and medications, but not to replace them. Much of our education and research, or much of our education is research and evidence-based. Other parts of the education are not based on research, but have proven to be highly effective. If I was to say to you today, try to think outside of the box. You don't necessarily need research and citations to validate anything that you do, so long as what you do comes with some level of sensibility, experience, knowledge, and safety as well. All right. For example, let's just say that today, let's say that today, for example, there's a study that comes out that says, hey, exercise is good for us. Woo! Does that mean it didn't work yesterday or for all of time before that? Of course not. But we have to think outside the box. So we do. And you're going to find as we go through this how we will ask you to think outside the box as well. All right. Of course, with safety in mind, we want to make sure clients, patients do what they can, not what they can't. We want to push them, but we don't want to hurt them. All right, so the overall intention of why I put this all together years ago as an education curriculum, which now has many different formats, is to fill a void and to bridge a gap that seems to exist. It depends upon where I am, who I'm talking with, what community I am in, what city, what country, sometimes what state. It just depends. But, we've had people, but before I get ahead of myself, the double arrow on the left, this would represent the current medical care, neurology care, physical therapy education, and to what degree they know about Parkinson's and intervention strategies, okay? And for many places that I've been, there's an extreme lack of education, even about the disease itself, never let alone the intervention strategies, okay? As a matter of fact, for example, my friend in Uganda, Hannington Kabugo, I don't know if he's on because it's probably like 3 in the morning there or 1 in the morning, but he told me, and he's expressed this in workshops before, that as a guest presenter, that in Uganda, many people think that if you get close to another person or close to a person who has Parkinson's, that it's contagious and that you're going to get Parkinson's. Okay, well, that's a very big lack of information. So on the other side, we have the improved functional life for the person living with PD. So on the two sides of the arrow, there's a gap. We want to help fill that gap with knowledge, education, strategies, and techniques to help. All right, and all of us can do it. All right. One of the things I put together, and I'm doing a little shameless, or maybe it is shameful, self-promotion. So if you have this already, please don't run after me with a pitchfork or anything, but I just want to do a little promotion because I worked really hard to put this together, and all the proceeds from the book and my CD and all the web workshops we do, it all goes to a nonprofit I started to help people. We've helped people all over the world. We just sent more money about an hour ago to a family in Mexico in dire need. So that, $50 goes a long ways, and medications in certain countries. So bottom line is a little shameless self-promotion here. ThePDbook.com is a place. If you're in the continental United States, actually anywhere in the 50 states, that's right, anywhere in the United States, all 50 states, you can go to that, you can buy my book, and I'll throw in a copy of my CD with it. We didn't make it to the final Grammy nomination category, but we came to the category just before it with my CD, which I don't have a copy here. But anyways, if you're outside of the United States, just go on Amazon, okay? If you can't find it there, you can go to this site. You just have to pay more because of the shipping, all right? Here it's $28.50. You get forever access to a growing and expanding website that's a support website for the book that shows a lot of videos that, of course, we can't show in a book. All right, so the book is one way. It's also available in Spanish, okay? So if you are interested in that, just contact me and we'll make sure that we get one to you. You can find it on Amazon in Espanol as well. We also have a newly launched education website. It's an institute, Parkinson's Regeneration Training Institute, okay? It's the same stuff, except it goes deeper and deeper as I learn more and more and more. The difference between this and the support website for the book is this has a whole lot more stuff on it. ptronline.org is, for those of you, by the way, who are already a member of my institute, you will receive an email soon with a code that gives you forever access to this, because that was the deal I offered with the first institute. Well, this is a better platform, much easier to use. We're pending CECs from several entities, NASM, AFA, the first ones, ACE, ACSM, a couple of physiotherapy things. All right. When you go through it, you're going to see the course curriculum, and if I scroll down, you'd see it, but I don't have a screenshot of that. It has the 7 modules plus a growing set of other modules with interventions after that. ptronline.org. Again, if you click on payment options, this is a subscription-based website. So there's a monthly, there's a 6-month, and there's a 1 year. Okay, so you can cancel at any time. You can join at any time. The bottom line is we're here to educate on whatever platform we can, try to get it out to as many people as possible, the best way possible. And one more thing before I forgot, my book is now also available on iTunes and Audible and Amazon in audiobook format in English. All right, so that's it for that. Our next live stream Zoom workshop is going to be January 16th, 17th, 10 to 5 on Saturday, 10 to 3 on Sunday. Here's what happens. You go to parkinsonsregenerationtraining.com. You go to the streaming workshop link on the menu. You click it, you go down, you make a donation of $159 or more, and then you get access. And this will be a live, like all of us are on the screen and we're all talking. Okay, I mean, we're presenting, but we have a lot of interaction, highly interactive. So Laura will be there. I'm sure Anna's will be there. Russ is definitely going to be there, and probably Allison and Ruben. Okay. Here's the thing, though. You're going to need to email me, and you're going to get this. So you're going to get the slideshow too when I email you. So you have the slideshow and the video, and you just go right here. You make the donation. Sign up for it. We already have a few people signed up. I think it's going to fill pretty quickly because so many people are home these days with COVID. Carl@neuromotortraining.com. You email me there to say you signed up, and then I send you a pre-workshop set of 6 videos. It takes about 2 hours and 20 minutes to get through, along with a bunch of information. Let's move forward. So I want you to get the most from this webinar, all right? I want you to think about this. I'm going to do what we call chunking. That means I'm going to pause every once in a while. I want things to register. I also want you to have time to write little quick notes down. Remember, you get a recording and a slideshow, so you can go through this infinite number of times. But we're all adults. We need to focus, and you're going to find out why later on. It has to do with neuroplasticity. You may feel strain during this focus. Okay, you may feel strain. When I feel strain, I think of this as, this is me expanding my knowledge. This is me getting better, so I can be a better at helping people, all right? And that strain, if I can attach a reward to that strain, that makes it even better. That means the journey is rewarding, all right? So I want you to get the most out of this. Hyper focus. We're only on for an hour. So let's just talk real quick about Parkinson's, and I will use Parkinson's as an example here and there throughout our event this evening. Anybody know our most immediate and primary concern for the person with Parkinson's? Bingo. Falling down. People with Parkinson's are at a much higher risk of falls and injury. Sadly, the #1 cause of death in the Parkinson's population statistically are complications from a fall. Not necessarily the fall. In fact, usually not the fall, but complications. Just here's one example and I'll move on. Dr. Alfonso Fasano is a friend of mine. He's based in Toronto. Some of you may have seen the interview I did with him. He's one of the most highly regarded in the world at what he does. And when we did the interview, he was sharing on his slideshow in my interview with him that there's a gentleman there who fell down in his backyard, hit his head on a rock. This gentleman lived with Parkinson's. The ambulance came. They took the gentleman to the hospital. He was there for about a month, but he died. He passed away, sadly. And it's because he got pneumonia. So it wasn't the fall, but it was a complication from the fall because the fall put him in the hospital. These days, well, COVID's a thing. So that's a whole nother webinar though. Parkinson's is a full body multifunction experience. So my goal is to help people live a full and active life, to help slow disease progression, talk about that later, reduce the risk of falling, positively impact cognition, movement, quality of life for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers and the people around them. And just in case anyone is predisposed to, let's say, some kind of mutation genetically, getting, Parkinson's, Parkinsonian type of disease, or Alzheimer's, sometimes a gene, when you're exposed to certain toxin long enough, maybe it's a type of work situation you're in, who knows? There's so many. That's another webinar. That's what we teach in our live workshops, though. A lot of that kind of stuff. We have guest presenters come in for those. Well, bottom line is, if you are predisposed to a mutation down the road, like in my family on my mother's side, fortunately not my mother, but on my mother's side, Alzheimer's is kind of a big thing. So maybe I'm predisposed. Well, the things that I'm going to share tonight will help maybe so that I don't get the disease. Maybe the techniques and the strategies and the movements and the exercises that I do, or any of you do, will help to delay the onset of a disease. Could be cancer, could be anything, right? Let's move forward. Let's talk about what is Parkinson's. Now, we're not going to talk much more about Parkinson's than just this slide. Almost all the rest of this is not Parkinson's related, but I want to use Parkinson's as an example because it's so relevant in the neuroplasticity arena of what we're going to discuss. It's an idiopathic, meaning from an unknown origin, progressive neurodegenerative disorder of the central nervous system. The immediate cause is brain cells in an area housed inside the basal ganglia. I could get all sciencey on you, but I won't. It's called the substantia nigra. This is a primal and primary movement control center in the brain. The degeneration of these cells cause a reduction in the production of dopamine. This is a chemical messenger, or you could call it a neurotransmitter. Another bit to share on dopamine in a while, because it does a lot more than that. But in this particular, as we define Parkinson's, and we look at how or what is actually happening in the brain, substantia nigra is losing brain cells. They're dying off. This means these brain cells produce dopamine, but if you have less of these cells existing, then you produce less dopamine, which means there's less of a chemical messenger, which means that the loss of dopamine results in a greater difficulty producing smooth, intentional, purposeful movements. All right, let's take a look. Top down. We're looking from top down. We're looking at a top view on the left image of the brain. Okay, you see the little butterfly-shaped thing? That's the substantia nigra. On the upper right image, you see dark areas, substantia being substance, Latin for substance, nigra being black. It's a dark or black in appearance, this dopamine is. That dark stuff represents what dopamine looks like in imaging. Okay, so on the upper right, we see a healthy substantia nigra, but on the bottom right, we see a Parkinson's-like substantia nigra. Okay, we have less dark area, less dopamine. So that's what's happening. Control over movement will be impaired. This will get worse over time. And of course, there are dopamine replacement medications, which we'll discuss how to maximize those, uptake of those in a while. In the meantime, though, like I mentioned, the role of dopamine Well, there's actually a book called that. I think it's by Dr. David Eagleston, so I probably should have put a citation here. But there's also this just, something I want you to know is dopamine plays many roles. Besides being a neurotransmitter, it's a driver, it's a motivator. All right, so you may find that if you have somebody with a movement disorder that's Parkinson's related, MSA could be another one, progressive supranuclear palsy. There's another one that I can't really think of now. But anyways, Parkinsonism type of things. Well, any time with dopamine is lacking, well, because it's a driver, a motivator, that might be why some people with lack of dopamine want to sit on the couch, or they don't really feel too motivated to do too much, even with the dopamine replacement, because it's not quite the same as the real deal, although it can be very helpful. Again, more on that in a while. All right, so if I want to get up and go get my coffee, let's say it's downstairs. Well, I get up, I walk downstairs, I get my coffee, I come back up. Dopamine is the chemical that drove me to go after the coffee. Okay, now that I have my coffee, serotonin kicks in. I'm happy. All right, so it is a reward chemical as well. All right, I mentioned we're talking about neuroplasticity. We're also talking about a concept here. Basically, all this slide does, where it says neuropsychomotor training, all this is meant to illustrate is that everything is connected to everything else. All right, we've got movement, motor, musculoskeletal. Upper left, I have spinal and nerve communication. Okay, that just drives us. Okay, we don't have that going on, we're not going to move anywhere. All right, we have neurological, so we have central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. Over on the right, psychological would be actually just representative of not psychology, but the brain. Let's think of it as the brain. This is my favorite little brain here. I got this from Dr. Wendy Suzuki at New York University. You might have heard of her. She has an amazing book, by the way, called Healthy Brain, Happy Life. Not sure if this is showing up right or not, but Healthy Brain, Happy Life. And she's featured this month in National Geographic, by the way. So if you get that magazine, I'm going to pick up a copy because I want to have it. She talks about Alzheimer's, exercise, benefits to the brain, and this and that. So anyway, psychological is brain, executive function, memory, language, attention, visual, spatial. Your behaviors are habits, reactions, mood, motivation. Right? So everything is connected to everything else. Let's talk about nervous system. Okay, it includes two major branches when it comes to movement: central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. We have other ones, we have other systems, but we're just going to think about these two for now. So conceptually, the nervous system, it links the brain with the body and the body and all of its organs back to the brain. The job of the nervous system, well, there's a lot. This comes direct from Stanford, okay, in Northern Cali. So when we look at this, basically there are 5 things that happen, and this is the order they generally happen. First, you have sensation, okay, and then subconsciously, a lot of this stuff is happening, So your eyes and ears, you may hear things, you're going to see things, your nose, you may smell things, right? There's light, rays of light coming in, sound waves coming in, particles that when you breathe, you may smell something because, well, you have a sense of smell, right? So it's a sensation. You have tongue, skin, etc. So these are sensing physical events all the time. The next thing is perception, to the extent in which any one or more of these sensations become conscious, right? So we can direct our conscious, like it says in the little sub bullet. Attention can also be directed. So if I was to say to you right now, how do your feet feel connected to the shoes you're wearing, or connected to the socks, or connected to the floor? How do your feet feel right now? Well, you can direct your attention and say, oh, my feet, well, I don't have any shoes on. I have compression socks on. I wear them all the time because of the blood clots I had. But they feel good, but I can feel them. And I feel the sensation of the floor in my feet now. And even before I got to this second bullet point here, I wasn't thinking about my feet, but feet are a good example. How does your rear end feel sitting in the chair if you're sitting or wherever you're sitting. So you can direct the attention. It's an amazing thing with perception. All right, we can bring consciousness to various things. Okay, feelings, these are emotions. They involve the brain and the body. They're designed to move us towards particular end goals. Thoughts, well, this is a sense of what our brain is doing all the time. All right, so this would involve so many different things. For example, in creating meaning out of our perceptions. And it can involve memory as well. We have a lot coming up on memory tonight. And then all of this leads into driving our behaviors and our actions. We have learned behaviors, things that we learn how to do, learn how to drive a car. Of course, that becomes more reflexive and sort of. I'll tell you, a reflexive behavior that probably wasn't around 20 years ago because there weren't smartphones. This, oh, I gotta check. How many times you ever picked up your phone for no apparent reason? It's just like a habit. Oh, it's reflexive. It's a behavior. I do it. Oh, I might have somebody like something. Oh, I got another like. Oh, another person registered for the webinar. That was actually really exciting because I had like 157 or 158 people sign up. Thank you. I'm humbled and honored. So behaviors and actions also would include deliberate behaviors. Okay, and this is going to be our primary focus of tonight. All right, so we also want to cover something else though. Interoception versus exteroception. Well, what the heck is this? There are courses on this now. In fact, there's a great course by Dr. Emily Spickle, ebfafitness.com. I used to teach for Emily. She's amazing. She has a great course on interoception. I believe Rock Tape is offering one now too, pretty sure. If it's not out yet, it'll be out soon. Well, interoception would be paying attention to and being mindful of how we feel within our own body, our own skin, within the confines of our own skin. Being aware of that, interoception. Extero, perception and awareness of what's happening in the outside world. What is happening around us? So the nervous system's job is to take the inner world and match it to the demands of the outer world. Let's use an example or two. Okay, our goal is to sharpen the nervous system. And we're not just talking neuroplasticity being a brain thing tonight. It also involves nervous systems. Okay, so we want to sharpen the nervous system and match the inner world with the demands of the outer world. This is our goal. Okay, if we're not moving well, but a situation requires us to move better than we can move, we're not matching. Okay, maybe it's because we can't, or maybe we're not paying attention and we can move better and we should, and we're not. All kinds of possibilities exist in this arena. Extremes would be interoception. The extreme of intero would be being asleep. When you're asleep, you are just in relation to yourself. There's no exteroception unless something wakes you up and then you wake up and now you have that. But when you're truly asleep, somebody the other day asked me about dreams. I don't have an answer for that. I just know that dreams happen, but a lot of the night that you're sleeping, you're not dreaming as well. So at those times, for sure, you are 100%, it's all you. There's nothing going on from the outside that you're conscious of. Now, have you ever been in this situation? I sure have. Man, it's just so frustrating. Exteroception extreme. I remember being in an airport in Mexico City about 2 years ago, and I'm running to the gate to catch a plane because the first came in kind of late. It's a huge airport. It's one of the biggest I've ever been in. I've been in some big airports. I'm late. I'm running, and I'm literally, I didn't know how to say it in Espanol. Wait, no, don't close the door, Well, they shut the door, but the schedule, the thing had the wrong gate on it. And the guy said, oh, no, you need to go over there. That's literally like a quarter of a mile away in another terminal on another floor, and security, somehow I got mixed up, I had to go through security. I'm running. It doesn't look good to run through an airport, especially when you're not, when you look like you could be suspicious. security stopped me, ¿Cómo está? ¿Dónde? Where are you going? I'm late, I got to get to the gate. Don't shut. Well, I was sweating. I was breathing hard, right? My heart is racing, right? I was not in touch with my inner self. Heart rate increase, breathing fast, breathing harder, sweating. I was almost complete exteroception then because I wasn't aware that all these things were happening that are listed here, heart, breathing, and sweating, until I got to the gate and I did miss the plane. So whatever. At least at that point, I sat down, kind of regrouped, and then came back into I was really upset though. I don't usually get upset like that, but I just wanted to get home, So I went back into more interoception that way. So I wasn't matched, right? So now at least we know now the extremes. All right, so most of the time we're in the middle of exteroception and interoception. And we're going back and forth between the two to some degree. All right, our summary on this is the job in the nervous system to manage this. The nervous systems can learn and they can change as needed. Before we get into some neuroplasticity in just a minute. All right. So here's something that I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit right now. And when I switch, I want to just mention how important movement is. Okay. Research is coming out all the time. And I saw another paper last week, I think it was released from a doctor at Harvard. And again, it illustrates the importance of moving. Just stay moving, because that is the best thing we can do to extend our lives. Of course, there's eating well. Of course, there's other things too. But moving is so important. When we stop moving, stuff starts changing. And when we're not moving, our brain is not working the same way. Okay, movement lights up the brain and it creates brain activity, right? So let's talk about movement or exercise. We know that this can help us, no matter who we are, to improve balance, stability, strength, and mobility. It can also help us to improve cognition and memory. All right, it can help to prevent falls, keep the heart and lungs active, improve flexibility and range of motion, that's the ROM, maintain independence for longer, probably live longer. We know, last Thursday I was so upset, I was just so sad because I was not seeing well, and I didn't do any exercise that morning, and I couldn't drive, and somebody driving me, and thankfully for the help. But I get to this guy's house, and you know what? I only moved around for maybe 15 minutes total in that 1 hour session where I trained this gentleman and his father, who's 86. I had to demonstrate things because the father doesn't speak English. I felt better after 15 minutes. It just gave me energy. My mood was better, right? So reducing depression can be a side effect of movement or exercise. A lot of times I'd rather just lay on the couch, but instead I go for a walk because I know if I go for a walk, then I'll feel better. All right, and increase brain activity. This is something that exercise can help with. So one of the things we want to do is we want to wake up the nervous system. We want to wake it up before we start getting into our cognitive training during movement and our memory training and our neuroplasticity, okay? So if we enhance our environment, we will increase brain activity, and this will lead to an enhanced learning experience. I gamify so much of what I do. A lot of things that I do with people and even myself, it's a game, but it keeps me moving. And it feels good and it's fun, okay? You know that when you move, dopamine is created. And later on, I'll talk about dopamine addiction, okay? Because you can get it from cocaine, heroin, or you can get it from good things like exercise, okay? So gamifying, play, move, play. Music can help a lot. A lot of times we'll have music when we're working with people. It can help with, we have the right tempo for the person depending upon their ability for walking, walk to the beat. If they don't have sense of rhythm, I teach them, right? Being a drummer for 35 years, I guess it's one thing I can do in my workouts. But music, be outdoors. Outdoors is so great for the immune system. Okay, plus visually, you're going to have so much going on, so much to take in, the elements, right? You got the sky, you've got the ground, maybe there's water nearby, trees, birds, maybe animals, maybe it's a different kind of stimuli. And bare feet, all right? So that's also something we teach in the workshops, and it's in my book. I don't remember, I think it might be chapter 6, but barefoot is powerful. When we wake up the skin, the small nerve endings, the mechanoreceptors and the sensoreceptors in the skin on the bottom of the feet, which is the most highly densely populated skin in our body, with those kind of small nerve endings, we get an immediate increase of proprioceptive input through the nervous systems, peripheral and central, to the brain to stimulate brain activity. See, the whole reason we're leading up to this like this is because the more brain activity you have going on, the better you can practice neuroplasticity and learn things, okay? Enhance your environment, be barefoot, wake up the brain. It's probably going to help you to move better, okay? Increase brain activity, enhance your learning experience. All right, so those are some ways to increase your, enhance your environment. One of the ways that I do it, I don't have a pair here to show you, but you can see it on the screen, is I use Naboso textured insoles. If you go to my website, which I'll have at the end of the thing, you can go to the store and you can buy them there. There's a discount if you buy through me. But these are a textured insole that take the benefits of barefoot, put them in your shoes and go out and you can be safe. Go to the mall, go to the store, go wherever, go outside for a walk, but you won't have to worry about stepping in glass. But if you wear these with no socks on, bingo, the textured insoles are specifically designed to help maximize stimulation, waking up these small nerve sensory endings, mechano and sensory receptors, and get brain stimulation going. All right, so the brain and neural circuitry. We're switching gears again as I take another sip of coffee. This will help me get some dopamine. Neural circuitry. What is it? In Parkinson's, the substantia nigra is losing dopamine, losing brain cells, less dopamine produced. Now this dopamine goes out, it transmits around the brain, and it makes your brain, as you consciously think of something to do, that transmitter tells your body what to do. Well, it's not just the substantia nigra, because it is communicating with other brain regions. And many times this neural circuitry is compromised. And when a neural circuit is compromised, other circuits will be developed. There's a doctor in Rochester I'm hoping to get to know better, Dr. Huxland. I don't remember her first name. Dr. Huxland helps people restore vision after a stroke. That's probably the simplest way I can put it. That involves retraining the brain and developing new neural circuitry. Let's take a look. In Parkinson's, we said the substantia nigra is not functioning optimally, but it's functioning to a degree, and it's outsourcing. The cool thing about the brain is it just does what it needs to do, but you can consciously choose for it to be more active, which is what we've been talking about here for the past 35 minutes. You can choose to have the brain become more active. So if you try new things and your old circuitry isn't functioning optimally, outsourcing will occur. Cerebellum, frontal area, these will better develop as movement control centers. All right, this is straight from Stony Brook University. I forgot to put a citation on here. It's Dr. Lisa Moratori. All right, so we know the brain can just start to outsource. When we look at the word neuroplasticity, again, it's a buzzword, but it's important. And I hate to be using that word a lot without giving some kind of details on what's happening exactly. So remember in the beginning, I mentioned hyperfocus. Okay, if there's any time to hyperfocus, it's about the next 10 minutes. Because this is like the mojo right here. It would be the brains, and actually new research says the brains and the nervous systems, because it can change and it will adapt. The brain and the nervous system's ability to reorganize and create new neural pathways or new neural circuits to adapt as needed. Now, do you see here we have, pardon me, for my eye here, okay. This here, you see my cursor, hopefully, I don't know if you see it or not, you have this, you have a brain cell, you have probably an axon or a dendrite going out to another cell, here's another cell. Well, there's a little light there, that's an electrical synapse, that's what that would represent, okay. Another synapse, another synapse. These synapses, these neurons, when we teach ourselves to do something new, we get a lot of activity going on in the brain. There's more coming up on this in a minute. But the brain is a really interesting organ because it's the only organ in the body that can decide to make itself better. You know, your liver's not going to say, hey, you know, don't drink so many martinis. Or, you know, your kidneys are, I mean, they're not going to say, hey, fix me. And this is unique to humans, our brains, the way the brains work. This is unique to humans. Now, this is my dog, Brandy. I have 2 dogs. Brandy's kind of like my dog, you know what I mean? She's like, oh, we're tight. She's 12 years old, gonna be 13 in February. She never comes to me and says, Dad, you know, can you teach me something new today? What's the latest research, Dad? You know, what's the weather tomorrow? Are we gonna go for a walk? She never says these things. It's because she's a dog. You know, there's neuroplasticity in animals' brains too. There has to be, or they probably couldn't do anything. She's learned how to do this. You can teach a dog tricks. You can teach an old dog new tricks. This takes longer, right? But the dog isn't gonna like go and like try to learn a trick and say, hey, Dad, I learned something new. Let me show you, okay? I learned how to like juggle something with my paws. No, they don't think like that. They can't. They're dogs. But of course, I don't want to discredit any dog because I think dogs are the greatest thing in the world. I mean, I love my dog and she has a huge heart. She loves me and I love her too. I think she loves me. She at least likes me a lot. Okay, so in our case, okay, well, in a dog's case too, I mean, the brain will customize itself to the experiences. Now, Brandy was a rescue dog, and I can tell you, this is an example of a dog brain customized to experience through neuroplasticity. She was found on the streets in a city in the south of Wilmington, North Carolina. She had a lot of scars. She'd been in fights. She'd had babies. She was homeless. She was actually not too friendly in the beginning, but she's the friendliest dog now to everybody. You know, she doesn't want to bite anybody or anything. She loves everybody. But if a smoke alarm goes off, like when I was cooking wings the other night, or if there's a gunshot, because I live in an area where across the river from where I live, there's hunting, you know, in deer season recently, gunshots. She hears a gunshot, she just runs and hides. Well, there's still something going on in there that triggered a memory from, or a feeling at least, from probably what she heard down in North Carolina, because we know that she was treated very, very badly. So it's turned out to be a great dog, but she never says, Dad, hey, you know, teach me something, right? But we can do this. We can say, hey, I want you to teach me something. We can direct our thoughts. We can learn a new skill. We can plan things. We can think in the future. Dogs don't probably think about going for a walk tomorrow, right? They don't set goals like, hey, I want to be the best dog I can be. They just exist and they love you. You know, it doesn't matter if you're going 5 minutes or 5 hours, you know, you come back and they're just as equally as happy to see you. It's so cool, right? So we have this unique opportunity as humans to choose what we do with our brains. All right, so examples would be, we could choose to learn how to ride a bike. Well, the more you practice riding in the beginning, then the more neural circuitry, like is illustrated here in this image to the right, again, a similar image. All right, synaptic fire patterns occur, and then these long strings and strands, this web of millions and millions of synaptic firing patterns occur. They fire together, and then they eventually become wired up together, so they're now a circuit, right? And then that's why you don't really need, after you learn to ride a bike, you don't need to relearn, you know, and God forbid unless you have a stroke or TBI or something like that, and you need to retrain. But you learn to ride the bike. You learn to drive a car. I'm trying to learn Spanish, you know, practicar mi español todos los días. To practice my Spanish every day. Learn a new skill, learn to play a musical instrument, learn to move better. Walking could be a problem for some people. I have people I work with every day who don't walk well, but are walking better because We're retraining them on how to walk, and it's not muscle memory, it's brain. I can't say for sure, but I don't think there's any such thing as muscle memory. It's the brain that's doing the work and the nervous systems, okay? If I'm wrong, please, I'll admit it if somebody shows me data on that, because I would want to know, so I teach it correctly. Train to move better. That's what we're here for, a lot of us. But we can do this in a number of ways. For example, we can do some challenge the person with Parkinson's, or just anybody, anybody. We can challenge them by implementing some cognitive training during focused movement. All right, so we'll have this goal of developing improved movement skills, so that as we're training and developing these skills to move better and improve balance, stability, mobility, cognition, memory, walking, gait, movement, we want this to transfer to the activities of daily living. This is very important. This takes neuroplasticity, but we want to maximize this neuroplasticity, right? We know that neurons fire together, wire together. By the way, I want you to know where this originally came from. John Rady has said it. John Rady, Dr. Rady has become a friend. He's written books called Spark, Go Wild, best-selling author, Harvard Medical School professor, really great guy. He says it in his books. Dr. Norman Doidge, who wrote The Brain That Can Change Itself, Toronto-based doctor, MD, he says it too. But neurons fire together, wire together, that was Carla Schatz. And you should just go on YouTube, look her up, and watch her. She's amazing. She's at Stanford now. She's been at Harvard and Berkeley and other places. She's at Stanford now. So I've been researching all these Stanford people a lot. Thank you. New dopamine just arrived. More coffee. They say coffee will keep you awake. Not me. If they paid me to sleep, I'd be very wealthy because I'm very good at it. I'm very lucky. So frequent and repetitive training to develop a new ability or skill will cause the formation of new synaptic firing patterns between neurons in the brain. Through this regular training, these new neural firing patterns are reinforced. Okay, so the more solid these connections become between the neurons, the better we can perform these new skills. And essentially what's happening is we are remodeling our brain. And it's so cool because we can choose to do this. All right, we have a choice. It's like the coolest stuff since sliced bread or Tabasco sauce. All right, maximizing neuroplastic potential and how age plays a role. Now, I said hang out for 10 minutes and pay attention. Now really, really focus, because it's real important to know that children and young adult brains are highly plastic or neuroplastic, okay? Exposure alone can prompt the creation of new neural circuitry, okay? The brain will customize itself based on the experiences that the child has, okay? I have a 5-week and 2-day-old granddaughter, Nora. She was here today, and oh my God, I just marvel at looking at that beautiful girl. And I think of what an amazing journey it's going to be to have the opportunity to watch her learn and to watch her develop movement, watch her develop as a human being. But she is going to develop based on her circumstances. If Nora was born in Japan, for example, and grew up there and Japanese was her first language, then it would be a completely different deal, right? Well, she's born here, so she'll have these experiences. So the brain customizes itself based on these experiences, but a young brain is very, very plastic. Okay, so I know several people, and I'm sure many of you do too, and maybe you are some of these people who can speak 2, 3, 4 languages fluently without an accent. My guess is if you're doing that, you probably learn by the time you're about 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Because that's that exposure to more than one language. You'll speak each language pretty much without an accent, at least not a heavy accent, all right? So adult brains are less plastic. Research says that once we get over the age of 25, we need to execute more of a focused effort, okay, in order to realize the creation of new brain circuitry. So focused effort is required to create new brain circuitry. This effort, though, this circuitry, this neuroplastic ability, which, let me go back and clarify now. According to Knudsen, I think his name is Knudsen, who retired from Stanford, and I think he was, I don't know where else he was, I think Harvard or something, doesn't matter. Bottom line is, Knudsen said that we can have as much neuroplasticity potential as adults as we were when we were children, but it takes focused effort. It takes a direction of this. We have to direct ourselves. And what this is called is self-directed adaptive plasticity. You yourself are directing so that you can adapt to something, learn something, and take advantage of the plasticity. All right, it happens in 2 steps. Here's what it is. Step 1, like I said, extreme focus. We'll get to chunking in a minute. Short outs, extreme focus, and deliberate effort. Those are required. Now, this is going to vary from person to person and oftentimes from day to day. On the day where I don't have as much energy because maybe I have stress playing a role and I'm not really sure, you know, sometimes I know what's bothering me, sometimes I don't. But some days are tougher than others. So when I was writing my book, which took 3 years, I mean, it's almost 500 pages, right? I really kicked butt for about 8 months and got it done at the end. I wrote it 3 times, and the last time I got it done in 8 months. But I took from the other times, you know. But there were times I'd go through like 2 entire days. I remember back in April this year, 2 days trying to write 1 paragraph. And I couldn't write anything after the paragraph because it depended upon how that paragraph went as to how I was going to word the other things, and I couldn't do it, so I had made no progress for 2 days. I spent hours and hours each day, 1 paragraph. Finally, one night, it just came to me. I took a break, and the break helped. So what would happen, though, is I'd be working on it for literally like 5 minutes, and it would drain me, and 5 minutes might have been too long. It's extreme focus, hyper focus, this deliberate effort to write this paragraph. Well, I run into this with people every day. 1 minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, sometimes it's 30 seconds of a focused effort. Maybe it's something they're having to do cognitively. Maybe it's a particular movement, or maybe it's 2 of those things combined. And they have their max, and maybe one day they do 90 seconds and the other day they only do 60. It depends on how they feel. But just like for me writing that paragraph, 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, 3 minutes at a time, every time I just need to take a break, like, right? So I didn't take the breaks that I needed to, and that's probably why it took so long. I didn't know this back then. So 6 months later, here and now I know more stuff. I'll probably do better writing the second book, which will be out in a few months, not too long. So, oops. So step 1 continued. Let's go back though. Short bouts of extreme focus, deliberate effort. When we're practicing something and we're learning something new, and these electrical firing patterns are occurring, these synaptic firing patterns that will help to develop together to give you the ability to do whatever it is you're trying to do. Well, there's something real important that happens during this, all right? One of the things is noradrenaline is released during these periods. So you may feel strain or discomfort. There could be a lot of discomfort during the effort, not pain necessarily, but discomfort and strain, okay? That's noradrenaline, same as adrenaline, they're the same thing, okay? During this effort, though, what's really important to know, and this might be a driver for some of you, it's a driver for me, to know that when I'm working on the thing that I need to work on, okay, especially if it has to do with learning something new, and actually writing that paragraph in a book probably wasn't the best example, but it is an example of an effort and trying to create something and make a statement. But maybe I'm trying to learn how to do an exercise, a movement, a balance, dynamic balance, you know. I have trouble with one side of my body more than the other on that. Well, as I'm doing this focused effort, acetylcholine is released at the synapses involved of what is being learned. If I'm learning Spanish, yes, it's an effort for me. Gets a little easier every time I actually really sit down and practice, which would be with somebody who speaks Spanish fluently. But it's that strain, that effort. Acetylcholine is being released at the synapses that are involved in what is being learned, okay? Acetylcholine marks these neurons for strengthening. This is step one, okay? So let's go back. I'm just gonna review real quick. Step one, short bouts of extreme focus. It's a deliberate effort, it's a choice. Acetylcholine marks the neurons. Okay, these are the ones that are going to develop together and fire together and wire together to create a new circuit. I'll do the bottom statement in a minute. Step two is sleep, a sleep-like state. So sleep, meditation. You could even just maybe just be sitting, drinking a cup of coffee or having lunch and just not really thinking, resting. Sleep is the best though. The marked neurons now, they're going to, the formations are created during rest. They're created during sleep or a sleep-like state. This is real important to know because these new neural pathways and circuitry, like I just said, they're formed and strengthened during sleep. And it's the reason why sleep is so important. And we'll talk about that just in a few minutes. We don't have that many more slides to go over here, maybe another 15 minutes at the most. Okay, so this here, if you think about this, and if you're a trainer, you're a physio, you're a fitness person or not, but let's say you are and you're working with somebody. I do this every day now. I talk and I have to remind people, this is like, you know, a foreign language to a lot of people. Even the word neuroplasticity, a lot of people don't know. But once they have an understanding of what's going on and how it works, and the adults develop different than children in the neuroplastic arena, and they can attach a reward. That's what I wanted to go back to here is, if we can, during this strain, okay, during the effort it takes, you can think of it, like I said in the beginning, this is me getting better. This is me learning to move better. This is me helping myself. And, you know, for me, a lot of times it just means I'm learning something so I can help people and do a better job of it and help others to help others do a better job. All right. This is key. This is so important to be able to relate this to people, because for a lot of people, this is going to be a driving fact to know exactly the breakdown. It's not that you just do the stuff and like all of a sudden there's a new brain circuit. Yeah, there is a little bit, maybe, but it's a deliberate effort. You know, painting with a broad brush again here, there are a lot more chemicals released and created during exercise or during learning. But noradrenaline makes you feel the strain, or adrenaline. Acetylcholine is going to mark the neurons to help strengthen synaptic firing patterns, create new ones, okay? While we're on this subject, I want to talk about dopamine and a role that it plays, okay? So lack of dopamine will help, or not help. It can cause difficulty in coordinating movement, all right? We already talked about that in the beginning. But it also can be, you know, lack of motivation, like I said in the beginning. When I have a coffee, I go downstairs and I get it and bring it up. Well, dopamine got me there. Okay, but dopamine is created in a lot of different ways, okay? There are the external ways, and I kind of mentioned them earlier, but I wrote down notes here because I want to make this sure. I want to make it, 1 second here. I'm very sorry, very sorry. Here it is. External creation of dopamine would be something like, you know, maybe smoking a cigarette. You know, I remember in high school smoking 2 packs of cigarettes like in a couple of days. That's the last time I did that because I thought I was going to die from coughing. But, you know, I was high. I mean, I got a buzz from those things. I had no idea. Well, it kind of felt good until it felt disgusting and horrible. You know, it's like 45 years ago. But, you know, I had a buzz. Well, if you get addicted to it, you feel that, well, there's dopamine you're getting from it. So it feels good, and we all want to feel good. Cocaine is another one. You know, I've never tried it, never tried heroin, but people who do, the problem is You get the rush, you get the high, but then where are you going to get it after that? More cocaine, more heroin, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's, well, I will say coffee. I'm probably a coffee addict, but I don't think it'll kill me. Internal creation of dopamine, though, is just doing something that, exercise, okay, exercise first. That's going to be the best way to create it. Doing stuff you like, you know. Well, when I rent a car, when I go out of town, I try to rent a muscle car if it's an affordable deal. Sometimes they have great deals on Camaros, Mustangs. I had an 8-cylinder Camaro in Florida a couple of years ago. I had a G-force gauge on the dashboard. G-force. Whoa, that was really cool to hit 2 Gs, you know, 0 to 60 in 3.5, 4 seconds. It was amazing. So I got a dopamine rush. But if you are lacking motivation because you're lacking dopamine, the one thing I would recommend, or recommend that you recommend to the people you work with, is explain things the way you think they'll best respond, that will drive them so that they just get started. Because getting started is the key, man. I never really feel like working out. Seldom does an urge, you know, come upon me to go out and, you know, exercise. But I do it because I know that if I get started, I get the energy to keep going, and that's usually dopamine. Again, a lot of other chemicals too. Let's talk about some brain training concepts. And I also want to refer to this as top-down training, okay? I didn't make that up. It comes from a few places. Most recently, it would be Dr. Andrew Huberman, who talks about top-down training in some of his research, some of his work. Top being brain, okay? Get this puppy going, because this is the thing that's going to drive the rest of you. It's a decision, and then you just start moving, you do stuff, and then chemicals are created, and then you feel better, and you have more energy, you think better, and you're going to do a better job learning things if you exercise. Exercise is proven to help memory, retention, and comprehension, and so many things. Brain training concepts. We want to train both motor and cognitive at the same time. Now, you don't have to. You can do only cognitive training. You can do only memory training. But when appropriate, and to the degree appropriate for you or the person you're working with, try to do both at the same time, all right? In an effort to improve cognition, movement, stability, functionality, dual tasking, multitasking abilities, and to help reduce or eliminate falls. If you think about it like this, if we get, I have people who every day they almost fall down for years now, like 8, 9 years I've been working with this population, movement disorders. People don't fall down during my workshops. I don't let that happen, but they almost fall down. If they almost fall down 20, 30 times in an hour, but they don't fall down, where they're developing circuitry to help them stay upright. We have a number of different strategies we use, which is all part of, you know, the book support website, but even more so in the online institute, and of course at the workshops we're doing those too, like the one coming up in January is interactive. We all have input there. I teach you a concept, you come back, you do stuff. We learn from each other. We want what we do in the sessions to transfer out the door. So when they get bumped when they're shopping, they don't get knocked over. They can recover. Fall recovery is when you almost fall, but you don't fall. All right. Some concepts would be like this. Let's say you're doing something, boxing, any kind of movement. Maybe it's jumping through an agility ladder. Could be going one leg sideways, one leg forward, whatever. There's a million things. But we train for different types of cognitive, because each of these concepts fires up neurons and makes a new neural circuitry in a different way than the other concepts. So direct recall. All right, so this would be just, there are a lot of ideas, you know, telling the names of all their people in their family. I have a gentleman now who has 9 grandchildren. He doesn't always remember all the names, but we talk about as many as he knows. Friends, family, places they work. Maybe I have them name, you know, body parts, kitchen appliances. Find out a hobby. I have people who like cars. Sometimes they like certain types of cars. Like, oh, I like the 50s. Okay, well, tell me, what were your favorite cars in the 50s? They're playing catch and they're jumping through something. All right. So we have more ideas we'll talk about in a second. Training for spatial awareness. Have them tell you how to get from one place to another. That's going to fire up circuitry in a different way. It's going to wire differently than with direct recall. Decision making is another one. Maybe you're doing some kind of boxing. You know, a lot of the rock steady coaches doing some cool stuff. Some of them, like my friend Melissa Tafoya, who I think she's on this tonight. She's one of the most amazing coaches I know. And you got to go to Carl Sterling, Carl with a K, carlsterling.net. Look for her interview, which is near the top of the 130 or so interviews on there. Check this out, because she's got some really good stuff that she does. Soon we're going to feature her on a webinar too. We just don't have a date yet, after the new year. All right, boxing, but it's a decision-making thing. I have, let's say I have mitts, which I forgot to bring with me. R on the right mitt, L on the left. I got green tape here, yellow tape here. I cue every punch. This is like entry level, but it's really still a good thing to do, right? They might be kind of like, you know, doing the boxing dance, and then, you know, right, boom, green, boom, yellow, boom, left, boom. Maybe we progress it, have them do opposites. I say right, you do left, boom. I say green, you do yellow, boom. So the sky is the limit on this. There's so many ways we can get creative with this. Hands, feet, all kinds of things. All right, another one would be, and this is actually a picture taken in a gym where I've taught in London many times. It's the chain store gym in East London, owned by Dan Edwards, who's the founder of Parkour Generations. Problem solving. Okay, this is another thing that involves a combination of spatial and decision making. So this is the gym where we were. That's an obstacle where some of my people, we had parkour for Parkinson's while we were there. Like, I think I've taught there about 6 times, 7 times now. So you have to make a decision. How are you going to get to the other side of the object? You're going to go over it, under it, around it, or through it. You got spatial happening because you have to decide the pathway, but you have decisions happen because you had to make a decision on what space you're going to use. Okay, so it's really, really cool stuff. These are, I'm not going to go over these now because I'm going over time already. This time flies so fast on my end. But direct recall ideas, I mean, you could make a list of 1,000 more things on there. There's so many things you can do. All right, spatial awareness, decision making, right? Setting up an obstacle course, and maybe there's an option of how to get to the other side of something. You instruct them. It's a great thing to do for problem solving. So the last thing I want to talk about is memory training concepts. Okay, now there's going to be some overlapping that occurs. You know, if you're naming off every car you like made by Ford in the 60s, well, there's memory involved, but it's also a form of direct recall. Okay, so there's overlapping that occurs, but, you know, no big deal, right? So while you're doing boxing or some other movement that takes focus, exercise the types of memory, okay? We have short term that generally lasts, I say generally 20 to 30 seconds. Could be phone number, name, directions to somewhere, maybe a list of words. I do a lot of word lists with people, but I want them to remember them long term. So I start with usually groups of 3. There's a theme. Lately, it's just been simple, but simple is not always easy, right? So you can have first list is cabbage, purple, Volkswagen. Well, you can get cabbage and purple, so there's a connection you can make. Volkswagen, I don't know where it came from. Okay, the car is always random. Second list, cucumber, green, there's a correlation there, Cadillac. Third list, corn, yellow, Mustang. Fourth list, red, tomato, Camaro. Sorry, tomato, red, Camaro. And there's another one, I actually can't remember, I have to look at it. So short-term memory, those would be like short-term, and then, you know, I'll say, hey, you know, how you doing today? Remember the words from the other day? Boom, boom, boom. Maybe they do, maybe I have to prime their memory, but they'll get them almost always. And then we just keep going back every few minutes and repeat them, and then give them a new list, and then a new list, and keep going back. But short-term memory that I'm trying to turn into a long-term memory. Explicit memory, a phone number, let's say a friend's phone number that you just know, or a number you call that you just know. Maybe it's the name of your childhood pet, right? Duffy the cat, Thumper the dog. Those were two pets that Lady was another dog. Make and model of my first car. Yeah, 1969 Bel Air with a 327. Semantic memory, general knowledge of the world. Giraffes have long necks. Zebras have black and white stripes. The sky is blue. The grass is usually green. Things like that. But while you're, remember, go back now. Remember, you can do these just like this without moving. But if you can move and exercise cognitive training or memory training, well, you're going to have more neuroplasticity happening, okay? Two things at once. Maybe you stack it and do a third thing with, they jump, you throw a ball, they catch it, or you bounce the ball and they catch it. I had a gentleman the other day, I have to go back, I digress once in a while, I admit it. He's from Korea, he doesn't speak English, but his son does, so he's 86 years old. And so I trained both of them together. I might have mentioned that earlier. The other day, he was jumping sideways using 2 feet, zigzag pattern through an agility ladder, playing catch with a ball, naming every city he could think of in Korea. Cool. He was also an architect. He happened to do some of the work on the 1988 Summer Olympic Stadium. And he told me what he did. Now, I couldn't understand him, but when we were done, as we're doing other activities, 3 things at once, okay? And you know what? In a month that I've been working with him, he's made a lot of improvement. He was already moving pretty well, but now he's moving better. He's multitasking better. Okay, so let's go back to memory. So you can do these things while you're doing movement, only to the degree your person can do it. Episodic memory, maybe your college graduation, you remember it, your wedding day, memories with family, memories with friends, a special event, dinner, vacation, holiday, etc. Implicit memory. There's going to be a little overlap with a couple types of memory here, but speaking a language, riding a bicycle, driving a car with a manual transmission, right? I love that. I miss doing it. Playing scales or songs on an instrument. You know, it might be a little rusty if you haven't done it, but the chances are you can go back and do it pretty easily after you practice for a few minutes. Procedural memory. Well, that also includes, riding a bicycle is actually a procedure when you swing the leg over and you get situated to get started, feet on the pedals, hands on the, and shifting the gear. So that's a procedure. My son's a doctor. He deals with emergency room stuff. He's an ER doctor in Atlanta, the busiest hospital, one of the busiest in the country. He has a lot of procedures he has to know, and especially if somebody comes in with a gunshot wound, every single shift, usually more than one gunshot, stabbings, people in an accident, the brains are literally falling out, and you have to push them in. So, I mean, these are procedures that he could recall from his memory on how to do it when he's not doing it. Brushing your teeth, easy, right? Well, I say easy, simple. Not always easy for people though, especially if they have some type of tremor. But it's a procedure, brushing teeth, walking, eating, feeding yourself. Sometimes that's a chore, but you know how to do it. And the last one is the priming. Now, there are a lot of different types of priming, but this is just an example. If I say milk and, a lot of people say cookies, cheese and crackers, peanut butter and jelly, right? Soap and water, bread and butter, bagels and cream cheese, kibbles and bits. You go to England, fish and chips and gin. All right. Another thing you could do is you could say, for example, remember, neuroplasticity. We're talking about neuroplasticity. We're talking about developing as many types, as many circuits in the brain as we can, doing some type of thinking while you're doing some type of moving, and maybe a hand-eye coordination thrown in at the same time. Maybe it's throwing a ball back and forth. Maybe it's, I don't know what I did with that ball. Here it is. Okay, this is the HyperIce vibrating ball. I meant to show it earlier, waking up the nervous system. Use a vibrating object. This will also help a lot of times with reducing tremors, 5, 10, 15 minutes of this, and the tremor can go like this down to maybe nothing, temporarily, of course. Great way to wake up the bottom of the feet, especially if you have any kind of foot dystonia or any muscle pain on the bottom of the feet, vibration. But anyways, throwing a ball back and forth. Planning a trip. Let's get more specific. How about you plan everything you're going to pack for your vacation, I say road trip, by the way, because maybe it's just out and back in a day. You're going to go out for a day on a day ride, you know, come back. Vacation, though, you're going to a beach. What are you going to pack? Well, we could be throwing the ball, doing some kind of movement, and tell me everything you're going to pack in your suitcase that starts with the letter T. Go. What you got? T-shirt, toothpaste, toothbrush, tank top, towel, maybe, but they have them at the hotel. So things like that. You're planning an event. What would you do? You're planning, I remember my daughter's wedding last year. What are you doing to plan? Well, I was involved in that to a degree and I loved it, right? So helping to plan while you're doing things, because the more you do stuff that cognitive training together, different types of cognitive training during movement, especially during movement. Again, without movement, it's okay. It's no harm done. It's going to be good. But do it with some type of movement, even if it's something super easy. Maybe you're just doing sit to stand. Sit to stand. I did it with a lady the other day, and she told me the names of her grandchildren, right? And she actually told me the birth dates too. So you're thinking of that stuff, direct recall, spatial, decision making. You're thinking of different types of memory. You can be thinking of the future. Shopping. What are you going to buy this year for whatever, your dinner for, well, if you have a get together, but you know, COVID, so a lot of people aren't. But bottom line is, I hope this makes sense, folks. I hope it makes sense that the more thinking we do during movement, the better it's going to help to create those new electrical synaptical firing patterns, which will create new neural pathways, new circuitry that wires together. It fires together, and then that acetylcholine is what marks it during the actual doing of the exercise, and then sleep is what strengthens them. And when you get up, you probably do a better job the next day. All right. Last but not least is the best known way of slowing disease progression, especially if it's neurology. I have to say a movement disorder in particular. I'm not going to say it's anything else because it's out of my scope. I don't have any data to support anything other than Parkinson's and some other movement disorders, is cardio. It can also help to delay disease onset, because during cardio, again, another broad brush, many things are created. We have dopamine, we have other chemicals, but we have brain-derived neurotrophic factor, okay? A lot of you've heard of BDNF. Well, this is like miracle grow for the brain. In fact, let's just move right ahead because I'm kind of falling behind here. And it's, oh my gosh, I'm 70 minutes in, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, we're at the end almost. Okay, so what's so great about it? Well, it gets created when you elevate your heart rate. Other things too, you could drink coffee, socialize and drink it, listen to music, and things, when you do something you like to do, this is when BDNF is created. But exercise, cardio, elevated heart rate is going to be the #1 way of creating BDNF. This helps to keep certain chemicals in the system longer, so there's a better chance of uptake of those chemicals. I'm speaking of medications particularly, and better, they'll uptake is faster, stay in the system longer, so they're more effective. In Australia, they're doing a thing right now where they have people exercise immediately after chemotherapy. They leave the chemo room, they go exercise. You know what? The chemo, it's not lasting as long. They're not needing as much of it because the exercise really helps the uptake and how effective the chemo is. Now, whether you believe in chemo or not is another thing. I mean, I'm just saying, this is another example of how BDNF can help. All right, so it also helps to prevent some cell death, maintain cellular structure, cellular integrity in the brain, and promote long-term maintenance so that the disease does not progress as quickly. Again, I'm not saying we're stopping a disease, although there are some people like Dr. David Sinclair and Dr. Dale Bredesen, Harvard, and I forget where in California Bredesen is, but they will say you can reverse the aging process and disease. It's not in my scope to say that, but certainly we know that the research shows we can slow disease progression. Very likely it'll slow disease progression. And for a lot of us, it's shown that it probably helped this to delay disease onset. Remember, dopamine is also created during exercise. All right, so in conclusion, Thank you so much for staying with me for an extra 23 minutes here. Challenge your client, patient, or yourself. Do what you can, not what you can't. Use what you know and combine it with top-down training concepts. Remember, this makes everything work. Without this, you ain't doing anything. Nothing. Remember, short bouts of hyper-focus. Do a minute, do whatever. Do 2 minutes, do 30 seconds. Do what you can do or your person can do. Then go do something that's not so demanding. Then do it again. Then do something, and then do it again. Short bouts of hyper-focus. Combine this with movement, often, cognitive and movement. Be creative. You know, Melissa is a great example of creativity. I mean, what she contributed in our last workshop was really, really cool. So great. Gamify things. We like to have fun with things. I have fun with all of my clients, and they seem to enjoy it a lot. I mean, they're sticking around, and I keep seeing them, and they're moving better, and they seem to be a little bit happier, especially during COVID. A lot of them live alone, and they're lonely, and nobody comes to visit. Okay, so also always be learning. I like it when I'm the least knowledgeable person in a room because I have a lot to gain that way. So I prefer to be the least knowledgeable, and I share when I can, like tonight. Seems pretty random, right? But use cross-body patterns, you know? Do some cross-body movements. Maybe it's some Tai Chi, maybe it's boxing crossing the midline, maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's you're standing and you step with one foot in front of the other, going laterally, okay? Why? Because it's in my book. The midline of the body, whenever you cross the midline, the two hemispheres of the brain will work. They have to work together for that to happen. And the more you do it, the better they work together. That's also very important for us. Move in all directions, all right? Do what people can do, not what they can't. But you want to be trying to move sideways, forwards, backwards, diagonally, walk in a figure 8 pattern, walk in circles, because life happens in 3 dimensions, right? You don't walk in a straight line and then make a right angle and turn every time you want to go somewhere. No, you might just whoop. We need to be able to walk, move as best as we can in all directions. Eat well. That's a whole another subject. Eat well. Be grateful. When I was complaining about my eyes to myself, I never do it out loud. Well, I did text a friend and complain about my eyes. I had to talk to somebody. You know what? I have so much else going for me health-wise. I felt like an idiot complaining. Then I had surgery and I'm seeing better than ever now. So I'm so lucky, but I'm grateful too. Gratitude is so important. Sleep. And if you have questions on sleep, I probably have answers, but we'll talk about that one-on-one. Sleep is something I've been studying a lot. Here's what I know about it. I can probably help you to sleep better, but sleep. Get enough sleep, whatever that is for you. 8 hours, I sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. I'm lucky I sleep well. Sleep is when the strengthening occurs in the brain. Sleep is proven. There's a great book. And I think I have it right here. I'm sorry I'm getting up and going, but I'm going to show you this book because it's so worth leaving the screen for. Let's see what else we have. Just get started and keep moving. All right? I'll show you this book in a minute. Just get started and keep moving. Movement is key to longevity. There's my book again, prtonline.org, Institute. We hope you'll sign up. All proceeds from Institute, workshops, and books goes to help people. We help people all over the world, and there it is, folks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Parkinson'sRegenerationTraining.com. Stopping the share right now. Appreciate you hanging out with me. And Why We Sleep, written by Matthew Walker. An amazing, amazing, amazing resource. I highly, highly recommend that you get this book because you'll find out how much sleep can affect you positively if you sleep enough and negatively if you don't, including longevity or not. Okay, oh man, okay, I'm 27 minutes over. Beth, thank you for thanking me. We'll talk soon, Beth and Steve. Elizabeth, thank you. Everybody, thank you. I appreciate you signing up, appreciate your support again. be sure to visit the website, get the book, and join us for the workshop in January. Help us. When you help us, you help others, because the money goes right through the foundation that I started and it goes right out the door. It doesn't hang around long. We're helping people all the time, every week. So appreciate it very much. And have a great day. All right. Have a happy holiday. Happy New Year. We'll be back in the beginning of the year with another webinar. And I think that's it, folks. Best wishes and take care.